Hello and welcome. So a pretty dedicated follower of mine asked this question, AK, could you please talk about the basics of real estate? Do it slowly, step by step. So I looked on the internet to see if there was something that would meet this need, but there was nothing. So I decided to make this video. Whether you're a real estate investor, wannabe investor, whether you're a real estate agent or wannabe agent, you have education, no education, you're a truck driver, it doesn't matter who you are. This content is for everyone. In this video, I'll also show you some instructional videos so you can see and follow along easily step by step. We're gonna go very slow, high level. Slow is how we flow to make sure we make the coins grow. Hope you got the joke. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about the following concepts of real estate that you see on the screen. And I'll throw in some bonus concepts in the end. There will be a part 2 to this video so we can go much more deeper into those concepts. In my 15 years of real estate investing, I have seen everything: barring, rebarring, roofing, drywall, painting, kitchen installation, plumbing, electrical, mechanical work. I've worked with city inspectors, cities, counties, tax attorneys, historical department, electrician, with HVAC folk, plumbers, home inspectors, and on and on and on. So that gives me a ton of authority to talk about this topic. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So let's discuss the core entities of real estate. Let's start with the basics, right? The property. What is a property? Okay, how many types of properties are there? Property, in my opinion, is an asset, a tangible asset that you can attain by either getting a loan or paying cash for it. Now let's talk about the types of properties, because there are two different types. Number one is residential and number two is commercial. And I'll give you examples of that. Let's talk about residential first. Residential real estate is anything from a townhome to a single family home, a rambler, a condo, even apartments where people live and pay rent is residential living. Commercial is the opposite of that. Commercial is where you go to shop, you go and purchase a service, you go to the dentist's office and a shopping center. That is commercial real estate. So now that we know what kind of real estate is out there, let's talk about the cast of characters, because it's all about the people, not just the structure itself. The number one character you must know is a realtor. And if you want to be a realtor, this could be for you. A realtor is a person who helps the buyer and seller with real estate transactions. Now, these fancy words, I want to break them down for you. Realtor, in my opinion, is somebody who can advertise your property, who can market it, who can take pictures of your property, maybe even a movie of your property, post it on MLS, they're licensed, they work for a broker, and they are looking in your best interest to make sure you as a seller or buyer gets the best deal possible. Unfortunately, some realtors are not very nice. They will try to list your property as low as possible so it can sell very quickly. And if you're not happy with a realtor, you have a right to find a new one. Now, a broker is another interesting character. A broker actually could be running a brokerage, as in a mortgage loan agency, where they have multiple real estate agents or loan officers working for them. So they are at a higher level and they're managing multiple real estate agents. But essentially, they are dealing with real estate transactions. They're also doing coaching for their staff and training for their staff. They also have expertise in market and analysis, also have connections with other banks, so they can get you the best loan possible. So it could be very lucrative to work with a broker instead of just a single agent, especially if you're shopping around for bank loans. Now, the next character in this cast is a buyer. Okay, a buyer is somebody like, for example, myself. I'm an investor, but I'm also a buyer. Now, I have to buy a property from another person who would be called, in this case, a seller. A seller is a prospective person who wants to sell the property to other people like myself. Now, there's another interesting character that is called a wholesaler that you may or may not have heard about. And this wholesaler character is basically someone who is sort of a middleman or woman in this case. And this person usually doesn't hold properties. They look for properties at discounted prices. Then they put a contract on the property. And we'll talk about what contract means in the end of the next video. Wholesaler is someone who assigns a contract, assigns a contract to another investor or prospective buyer. So they never end up buying the property. They just go and find really lucrative deals. They have a certain margin, they make money in the middle and sell it to another investor. These wholesalers will also show up at your closing because they will get their cut from the closing agency. Now, another concept you must know is the process of buying the property. Well, you make an offer with an earnest money deposit to the seller to buy their property. Now, what is earnest money? Let's talk about that for a second. Earnest money is a very key concept and it's very powerful because it can give you huge leverage. And here's how it works. Earnest money is basically the money that you're giving to the seller in good faith, and you're showing to the seller that, look, I'm putting down 10, 20 grand out of my pocket for this offer because I really want to buy this property. You know, if the deal doesn't go through for whatever reason, if the loan failed, that buyer could lose that 10, 20 grand that they're putting down as earnest money deposit. So let's talk about another institution, another entity in this life cycle of buying and selling a property, which is the bank or the private lender. They're two separate entities. A bank is someone that gives you a mortgage loan, but banks usually don't give the loan without shaking hands with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, because banks have to also have their loans underwritten. Now, why does that happen? That's been happening for a long time, especially it became very strict after the debacle in 2008. And if you guys know what happened, banks were giving out shady loans to people who don't deserve to be owning a property, people who were not even alive were getting loans, and so on and so forth. Now, a private lender is an interesting entity because this private lenders could be a hard money lender, which we'll talk about later, but a private person could be a friend or family, or could somebody who's running a capital fund. Essentially, people offering you a private loan with their own cash or their own money or a pool of money that they've collected from other people. And they can be a very powerful tool. And here's a tip for you. A lot of folks who do rehab of properties, fixer-uppers and all that, they use private money lendings. Why? Because bank loans take a long time. Private lenders, on the other hand, make it easy and simpler for you. If you have good credit and a good deal, you're good to go. If I'm going too fast, drop me a comment so I can slow down in my next video. Now, house inspection is a critical part that happens before the sale of the house. An independent inspector that's chosen usually by the buyer's agent comes and inspects the property of the seller, because you're selling your property, but I don't know what's in the property. I haven't checked the roof, I haven't checked the gutters, I haven't checked the HVAC unit, I haven't checked if there's mold behind the walls. Inspectors are very critical, folks, because they can literally change the nature of the deal. And by that I mean, if they write something in a report that's significant cost, that allows the buyer to go to the seller and negotiate the price. So for example, if the HVAC system is too old and it's broken, they can put a condition in the contract and listen, your HVAC is broken or your roof is leaking, it needs to be replaced. If the seller then choose to take that and either fix it or give some money back to the seller at the time of closing. Let's say the home inspection is now done. Now what happens next? The next process is the closing process. Closing process is really the final step. After the seller and buyer agrees on a mutual price, the buyer and seller exchanges keys. The settlement company makes sure the loan is approved, that there's money in the bank, that there's escrow money with the title agency. They make sure the seller has brought closing costs with them and they're able to pay that, whether they're paying out of pocket or as part of the loan. All that details in the paperwork has to be worked out at the time of closing. At the closing process is when you get the keys for the property and become a homeowner. Congratulations, right? So, but who does that closing process? And that's where the title agency comes in, folks. The entire closing process, any other processes that go along with closing process are run by the title agency. They have a lawyer, an attorney that does title search. What is title search? It's a search of the public records to make sure that you are the owner of the property you're selling, that you don't have an aunt or uncle or niece or nephew or a child that you don't know of, who can come and claim the property. Title agency also records the disbursement of the funds, meaning the give and take of the money. Okay. And there's also insurance, right? They ensure that the property that you're buying is free and clear, and they charge you hefty fees, usually 2 to 3%, maybe more, maybe less in some states, I don't know exactly. But essentially, title agency plays a very, very critical role. Let's say 2 years from now, somebody comes and claims that land of the property, right? And they say, well, this land was mine, and they built a house on this property. So what do you do then? You then have some insurance, and then you can, fight that case in the court because of that. Now, let's talk about the lien. What is a lien on the property? That's a bonus concept I'm going to share with you. It's a bit more complicated, so you should know about this concept. So a lien is a claim that is put upon the property by a bank or a loan giver that wants to collect a debt. For example, you go to a private lender and they give you some money, let's say to rehab the property or fix it up. They're going to put a lien and hold your title until you pay that amount back to them. Now, anyone can hold a lien on the property. It could be a contractor, it could be a lender, it could be an HOA. Even the city and state and county can also own a lien on your property, okay? Because you may not have paid your taxes and vice versa. So lien is a very dangerous thing not to be played with. Now, when we talk about lien, we also talk about deed and title. Again, this is all bonus content I'm giving you guys. Deed is the recording, okay? The process, the recording of the public records to make sure that the property is exchanged hands, right? Buyer, seller again, right? A deed is a document that also serves as a means of ownership, right? How do I know that you own the property? Well, there's a deed that has your name and the person who sold it to you and on and on. Now, last but not least, a very important concept. You don't want to leave a closing process without the title in your hands, okay? The title is basically the right to use that land and be the owner of the property. Slightly different from the process of deed, the title is also a document that you own. That means you are the owner of the property and you have the right to use the land. So how do we know that the seller who's selling the property owns the title? Well, that's where the public records come in. That's where the title agency that I explained does search in public records to find out who is the owner of the property. That's where the title comes in. So once you verify the title is free and clear, then you become the owner of the property, because the title gets transferred to you and then you become the owner of the property in public records or the city you're buying in. I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm trying to do this as good faith for people who are trying to learn about real estate. Drop me a comment if something sounds confusing and you want me to repeat it. I'd be happy to clarify more or answer your question. If you want to learn more about real estate, there's obviously a video here that I'm posting. I will also do a series 2 of this video, maybe even a 3 or a 4. I would encourage you guys to watch the video several times so you can really understand the whole story and connect the dots as I've shown in the instructional video. With that, I'm going to see you in my next video. Have a great day.